Hello and welcome to News 9 Live. First up, headlines at this hour. Prime Minister Modi at the 16th BRICS Summit says there is no place for double standards on terrorism and terror financing. Prime Minister Modi and Chinese President Xi Jinping all set to hold their first bilateral in 5 years. Priyanka Gandhi makes her electoral debut, files nomination from Wayanad for Lok Sabha by-poll. Delhi's Environment Minister Gopal Rai writes to Union Environment Ministry seeking a meeting to approve cloud seeding amid the worsening pollution situation in the city. Andhra Pradesh Chief Minister Chandrababu Naidu announces Deepam scheme to give free gas cylinders to all the eligible women in the state. Owner, son and contractor arrested in the Bengaluru building collapse case. 8 people are dead so far in the incident. Odisha and West Bengal brace for severe cyclonic storm Dana. People are being evacuated and educational institutions have been closed. The Trudeau-led government leaked sensitive information on India to the Washington Post for days ahead of Canadian police briefing on Niger case, says reports. That's our lead story in this bulletin. 8 dead in Bengaluru building collapse. A day after a multi-storied under-construction building collapsed in Bengaluru during heavy rain, leading to 8 deaths. The police on Wednesday arrested its owner's son and took into custody a contractor. The arrested have been identified as Bhuvan Reddy, son of Muniraj Reddy, under whose name the building was being constructed. The contractor, Muniappa, who built 4 floors, has also been taken into custody. Rescue operations are underway still at the site. Sniffer dogs and disaster support teams are on site trying to assess any signs of life amid the debris of the collapsed building. Heavy rainfall is suspected to be one of the reasons behind the 6-story building collapse at Anjanadri layout in North Bengaluru. The 6-storied under construction building collapsed in North Bengaluru around 4 p.m. on Tuesday. The authorities reported that the construction work was of poor quality and that the owner did not have permission to build 6 floors. The civic agency had only granted permission for 4 floors, but they said the owner proceeded to construct 6. Those are the visuals on your screen right now. On the one side, the building collapsing like a pack of cards, and on the other, rescue operations are underway. They are clearing the debris to look for any sign of life under the rubble, as it were. 8 have been confirmed dead and they have been taken out of the debris. A very unfortunate incident, which is a combination of both negligence, illegal construction and of course the rains. On your screens just now, terrible scenes of bodies being taken out of the debris and also looking for some kind of semblance of life under the rubble and the debris. This is in North Bengaluru, in Anjanadri buildings, apartments. And to speak more on this, let me now go across to my colleague Mohammad Wajiullah, who's been tracking the story since morning. Wajiullah, I mean, what is the latest that you're picking up? 8 are dead and many are supposed to be, I mean, I wish that they are alive, Wajiullah, because apparently the rescue operators are still hoping for the best. Are the sniffer dogs and rescue operators still there at the site in North Bengaluru?
Yes, Sudha, we are touching 24 hours now for the operation. And yes, NDRF teams, the dog teams, all of them are present there. Till afternoon, they were suspecting that three more bodies have to be recovered. Three more people are still trapped inside. But in the late afternoon, we saw the rescue team removing three bodies from the site. A total of eight people have lost their life in this tragic incident. And we also saw how the rescue teams were working there. We've done reports also from there of their working. But as of now, they are now doing a combing operation to check whether are there any more people still in the rubble, because from the information that they had received, it was 17 people in the building, out of which they'd managed to get 12 people out, 10 people out, and eight of them have lost their life. Then again, the number changed. So now, from what we know, is they've almost managed to get everyone out who were there inside. There were more than 20 people, is what we were told, out of which eight of them have lost their life, and 12 people are at the hospital. Five of them are five of them are in hospital with injuries, and they are getting treated. So this is what the number is as of now, and it is a tragic incident. An entire building fall. The owner's son has been arrested. The owner, who because the building is his name. His name is Bhuvan Reddy. He has been arrested. The contractor Muniappa has been arrested. There is a lookout for Mundiraju, the father of this of the son's father of the owner of the property. So these things are going on. The Hennur police is still looking into it, and the operation is still going on as it rains in Bengaluru as of now.
Yeah, there was a lot of confusion in the morning, what we read in the newspaper and what you basically told us, and considering you were on the first to get there, is about how it's because of the rain, which is also a reason, but basically illegal construction. Of course, later when Deputy Chief Minister D.K. Shivakumar, he also visited the site, he said, no, rain is not the reason. So tell our viewers, isn't it a combination of reasons that led to such an unfortunate accident?
Yes, so the rain is a part of the cause of the entire crash, but rain is not the only thing to be blamed here. The other reasons why we saw that building crashing down is the shoddy construction work that was going on, the illegal construction that was going there. They had permission for 4 floors, because if I've gone to that place and I've seen the lanes are very narrow. It's not even 10 feet roads or 15 feet road. It's just smaller than that for one vehicle to pass through. And at roads like this, you do not get permission for 6 to 7 floors of building. You get only permission for 4 floors, unless and until you have a 100-feet road in front of you, so that fire brigade or anything can pass through it. And all these norms have to be taken care. But this particular building had violated all these norms. Then, from what I had spoken to the NDRF team, they told us that the construction materials that were used seem to be very shoddy, because it is turning into a sand as soon as they're trying to crush it, because it was very easy for them to break open places. And that is what they believe is one of the main causes, apart from the rain.
Thank you so much, Mohammad Bajiullah, for joining us on this broadcast. Very, very unfortunate incident indeed. All right, some good news also coming from the south of India. There you have it, Chandrababu's Deepavali gift, free gas cylinders for women. As part of its poll promise, in which the TDP-JSP alliance had announced 6 guarantees called the Super 6, the alliance had promised 3 free gas cylinders annually if voted to power. The alliance, which is the ruling dispensation today in the state, is ready to redeem its promise as part of its women-centric welfare programs. The supply of 3 free LPG cylinders comes under the Deepam scheme to coincide with the festival of Deepavali, the festival of lights, and of course shall cost the state exchequer 2,684 crores annually. While speaking about the free gas cylinders in a review meeting, Chandrababu Naidu said as follows: the Deepam scheme will bring light to homes during the Deepavali festival. Despite financial challenges, the state is moving forward with welfare schemes that benefit the poor. The government will spend 2,684 crore annually on the Deepam scheme, with a total of 13,423 crores spread over 5 years. From October 24, eligible households can start booking their gas cylinders and the distribution shall begin on 31st of October. Now, the Cabinet also held a meeting today to ratify the scheme officially. Also in the Cabinet meeting, Minister Narendra Manohar said, of course, about 3 free gas cylinders, which is the first step of the Super 6, and they of course said that we are offering it to eligible women in the state through gas companies. They also added that, like I said, delivery by 31st of October and 1 cylinder till August, 1 cylinder till November and 1 cylinder till January. There were decisions taken about the sand policy. In the Cabinet meeting, the NGT imposed penalties due to mistakes of previous government. At that time, not imposed penalties on the government, they said. So these are some of the major decisions that were taken at the meeting. Time for a break, but lots coming up on the other side. See you then.
Let yourself flow with the turn of each tide.
Salty winds, you sweeten your ride.
Maharashtra,
Maharashtra is the hit.
Maharashtra tourism.
For the very first time in our investigation, we unmasked the killer of Ravindra Matre.
In 5G, we have to stand with the world, and in 6G, we have to lead the world.
Winning a Grammy was an absolutely surreal experience.
It's said that out of 7 diamonds across the world, 5 are cut and polished in India.
Don't forget, US is the largest consumer of, polished diamonds and the diamond jewelry. And that has taken a big beating for multiple reasons, but largely because of the consumer spending going down on these items. And that's essentially what has hit the diamond industry.
We are at a brim where you see not just one, but multiple very strong global brands coming out of India. And we will make a global mark, and I'm convinced about that.
This and more. Streaming on News 9 Plus. News is now content. Subscribe and get free vouchers.
All right, that's our main story today. Modi, Xi, bilateral meet. We are all waiting for this crucial meeting to start happening. Now, at the closed plenary session of the 16th BRICS Summit, Prime Minister Modi emphasized the importance of dialogue and diplomacy over war, stating that just as BRICS countries successfully tackle challenges like COVID-19 together, they are also capable of creating new opportunities for a secure, strong and prosperous future. He also called for global regulations on cyber securities and safe, secure artificial intelligence. Modi further stressed the need for united efforts to combat terrorism and terror financing, rejecting any double standards on this critical issue. The Prime Minister highlighted the importance of preventing youth radicalization and urged collaboration on the Comprehensive Convention on International Terrorism at the UN. He expressed India's openness to welcoming new countries as BRICS partner countries, emphasizing that such decisions should be made unanimously with respect for the views of the founding BRICS members. He added that the guiding principles, standards, criteria and procedures established at the Johannesburg summit should be followed by all members and partner countries. Prime Minister Modi also underscored the importance of timely reforms in global institutions like the UN Security Council, multilateral development banks and the WTO, cautioning that BRICS should aim to reform these institutions and not really replace them.
नए स्वरूप में ब्रिक्स विश्व की 40% मानवता और लगभग 30% अर्थव्यवस्था का प्रतिनिधित्व करता है। पिछले लगभग 2 दशकों में ब्रिक्स ने अनेक उपलब्धियां हासिल की हैं। मुझे विश्वास है कि आने वाले समय में यह संगठन वैश्विक चुनौतियों का सामना करने के लिए और अधिक प्रभावी माध्यम बनकर के उभरेगा। फ्रेंड्स, मैं न्यू डेवलपमेंट बैंक के अध्यक्ष हर एक्सेलेंसी दिल्मा रूसेफ का अभिनंदन करता हूं। पिछले 10 वर्षों में यह बैंक ग्लोबल साउथ के देशों के विकास के लिए महत्वपूर्ण विकल्प के रूप में उभर रहा है। भारत के गिफ्ट सिटी के साथ साथ अफ्रीका तथा रूस में रीजनल सेंटर्स के खुलने से इस बैंक की गतिविधियों को बल मिला है और लगभग $35 बिलियन के डेवलपमेंट प्रोजेक्ट्स सैंक्शन किए गए हैं। एनडीबी को डिमांड ड्रिवन सिद्धांत पर काम करते रहना चाहिए और बैंक का विस्तार करते हुए लॉन्ग टर्म फाइनेंशियल सस्टेनेबिलिटी, हेल्दी क्रेडिट रेटिंग और मार्केट एक्सेस सुनिश्चित करने पर प्राथमिकता रहनी चाहिए।
Prime Minister Modi shall hold his first bilateral meeting with Chinese President Xi Jinping since the 2020 Galwan clash. The bilateral marks yet another upturn in the India-China ties after a consensus between the two countries on patrolling arrangements along the line of actual control or LAC. The two leaders, who arrived in Kazan on Tuesday to participate in the BRICS Summit, had brief interactions only twice since the 2020 clash, on the sidelines of the G20 Summit in Bali in 2022 and the BRICS Summit in Johannesburg in 2023. PM Modi also met with the Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian yesterday at the summit and emphasized the need for peace in West Asia. He also held bilateral talks with Russia's Vladimir Putin and said the Russia-Ukraine conflict should be resolved in a peaceful fashion. Let's now welcome all the experts. Guest Ambassador Prabhu Dayal is former Indian diplomat, is with us. Lieutenant General retired Rameshwar Roy, Defence and Strategic Expert, Dr. Amalendu Misra, who's Professor of International Politics, Lancaster University, United Kingdom. He's live with us from London, and Professor Swaran Singh from Centre for International Politics, JNU, will also be joining us in a bit. But a very, very warm welcome to all of you. It is such a pleasure to have you. So I'm going to start with what, Prime Minister Modi said, what all he spoke about, and if we can run that. And let me go around the table. Ambassador Dayal, if I could start with you, please. BRICS, as people understand, is essentially, a grouping of non-Western countries which can act as a counterweight to institutions like World Bank and International Monetary Fund, etc., which is considered to be dominated by the global north. What Modi said right now, do you think some way does it just go and hit the nail, as it were, Ambassador Dayal?
Well, first of all, thanks for having me on your show.
Such a pleasure, Ambassador.
I think the Prime Minister hit the nail on the head when he spoke about BRICS in the overall global context and the role which it can play towards the welfare of the countries of the global south. Prime Minister has been repeatedly saying that he believes that there is one world, one family, and one future. And that is why we had taken Vasudev Kutumbakam to be the theme of our G20 presidency. So in our participation in a forum like BRICS, at the summit level, Prime Minister sees this as an opportunity to take up the interest of the global south, and that is why he spoke of how the new development bank could meet the needs of developing countries in the coming years. Now, there are many issues which naturally are being handled by the summit. And certainly one of these is the issue of the expansion of BRICS. Now, there are a number of applications which have been received. And I think India's view by and large is that we should first have these countries join as partner countries and see how they are contributing to the overall purpose of BRICS, both in terms of the quality of the content that they bring and how useful they can be towards meeting the interests of the global south.
Okay.
Now,
let me also, I'm sorry to interject in this fashion, Ambassador, my apologies to you, but let me first get all the guests to make their opening comments, and of course then we will have an elaborate discussion around the table. Lieutenant General Roy, a very, very warm welcome to you too. You know, considering you're a defense and strategic expert, what I wanted to ask you was very, very pointed observations made by Prime Minister Modi about terrorism, no place for it, about how to curtail it, put a lid on it, also about financing. You know, decode this for our viewers, because the minute you say that, you know, everybody who's not so, you know, they don't understand this in the sense that it should be understood. I'm not saying they don't. You know, your ears perk up because of Pakistan. Will it ever be a member of BRICS or not? That's one of the things. And some of the recent developments, you know, where India has been at the kernel of attention and rather unfavorable attention, is Modi making a very strong statement that this is who we are and this is where you get off.
Actually, if I have to make my opening comments, I would say that the terrorism as a subject of world at world level, except for what is going on between Israel and Hamas and Hezbollah and all this, which is a different kind of a warfare. It neither falls too much into terrorism, though it started with that, nor is it a kind of a classical war of conventional variety. It is more of a war of proxies from both the sides. I would say that yes, terrorism will remain on the world agenda for a long, long time to come. But if we focus on the BRICS Summit per se, and member countries which are there, to start with, there were 5 countries, and now in last year, that is 2023, 5 more have been added. 6th one, Argentina, is pulled out after showing its willingness to be part of it. So total, we can say these 10 member countries which are presently with BRICS. As far as terrorism as an agenda is concerned, with these countries and the countries which are in it, except for Iran to some extent, in the last couple of months and years, what is going on between Iran and Israel indirectly or directly. That apart, terrorism is not as much of an issue with these member countries per se. Yes, it stays as an international agenda in times to come. But as far as I am concerned, I would like to say that since Xi Jinping is also attending, and the initial group started with 4 members, that is Brazil, Russia, India, and China. Between India and China, there has been a big drop in the communication at the diplomatic level ever since Galwan clashes in 2020, May 2020. So last about 4 years,
right,
the relationship between India and China has not been to an extent that it should be. One-on-one also at the same time, I mean the bilateral level as well as part of BRICS group.
All right. I mean, yeah. So you've given me I'm sorry.
That would be a bigger issue.
Yeah.
Yes, that would be a bigger issue as far as I'm concerned from the military or the security point of view.
Yeah. Lieutenant General Roy, you've given me a very good point to go to our next guest, Dr. Amalendu Misra, Professor of International Politics in Lancaster University, United Kingdom. How are you, Professor, Doctor?
Thank you so much for having me on your show, Vaji.
Such a pleasure, sir. I mean, you know, what Lieutenant General said, and I'm going to take it from there, Dr. Misra, that the balancing act that India has to now do, you know, the elephant in the room is China. The thing is that we'll wait and see, you know, after Galwan, this is the first time that the 2 leaders are meeting with each other. But, you know, the balancing act with Russia, China, and on the other hand, for India to not show its antipathy towards the West, as it were. Very tough. Do you think that India will be able to walk the talk, Dr. Mishra? A bit of, we'll have to speculate. I'm sorry I'm making you do that. But considering your experience, I think this should be a cakewalk for you, Dr. Mishra.
Well, I think this is a real engagement in real politics. Prime Minister Modi is not necessarily projecting India's image as a kind of military power, but more as a kind of liberal soft power, which is also prepared to use its military might if need be. If you look at the statement that he made, it's more humanistic, it's more utilitarian, and it suggests about challenges that the humanity faces, such as water security, health, energy security, food, poverty. So there is sort of talking about the other half, the way it lives, the challenges that it faces, which is a step away from the Western narrative. But at the same time, he's talking about the way forward is not war, but dialogue and diplomacy. So that kind of begs the question, where is he coming from? So he's basically signaling the fact that we want to have a new world order where the challenges, everyday challenges faced by individuals, countless millions and billions, should be given priority. But at the same time, we are not losing sight of the fact that states, communities, nations are engaged in war, as we are witnessing it in the Middle East, or as we are witnessing it between the Russian Federation and Ukraine, is not the way forward. But
break now. I'm sorry, Dr. Mishra. I'll have to take a break. This is mandatory, and I have to take a break. When I come back, we get back to the same topic about what are the challenges faced by India and what are the wins which India has got in its bag at the BRICS Summit.
Who am I?
Nobody can crack that mystery.
There is a certain expectation of me.
That's the only contradiction.
Life itself is stranger than fiction.
I was a perfectly normal person born in an abnormal world.
I really didn't understand why is it different.
Just imagine a child who is bullied every day.
Boys school में कुछ लड़का लोग मेरे साथ sexual abuse किए. मुझे तेरे बारे में सब पता है. और तेरा रेप कर दूँगा.
You also start to stigmatize.
अरे ये तो time pass है.
Sex doesn't come in the picture. Sex comes very late. Then there are man-made narratives.
Why do you walk like that? Why do you sway so much? So you can understand the trauma of a person who's trapped in a wrong body.
But nothing can bind life.
We have to reclaim the lost position. We fought for more than 10 years.
Today I'm the mother of the industry.
I'm a first transgender member judge.
You can't walk in everybody's shoes.
This is what I'm comfortable with. They just are what they are.
You become the light yourself.
That is the change that I was looking for.
When I recognize myself is a small story, but it's an interesting one.
All right, that's our main story, Modi-Xi bilateral meet. We're all waiting with bated breath for this meeting to take place because some very important decisions will come out of it. I've got experts with me to decode what really India's role or achievement or challenges are in so far as BRICS is concerned. I am joined by Lieutenant General Rameshwar Roy, Defence and Strategic Expert, Dr. Amulendu Mishra, Professor of International Politics in the United Kingdom, and also Professor Swaran Singh, who's just joined us from the Center for International Politics, JNU. A very warm welcome to you, Professor Singh. Great to have you on the show, sir. I just want to ask you what I've been asking around, and considering you've just joined the show, BRICS is supposed to be a group of non-Western countries, which can act as a counterweight to institutions like the World Bank and the IMF, etc., which has been traditionally dominated by the global North. With this expanded BRICS, do you think, this is something that they will achieve? I mean, cross the Rubicon, as it were, Professor Singh?
There is no doubt that the Bretton Woods institutions that were created after the Second World War are no longer representative of the reality of the world today. So, rise of China, rise of India more lately are things that need to be accommodated in making them representative countries. So, BRICS, in that sense, is an alternative to the Bretton Woods institutions to primarily deal with the financial governance and economic decision making at the global level. Of course, there are impulses within some of these BRICS nations, for example, China particularly, to some extent Russia. But India has repeatedly underlined, Dr. Jaishankar, the foreign minister, has repeatedly explained how for us, BRICS is non-Western but not anti-Western. And India believes in not just creating alternatives, but also ensuring that the existing institutions, as you heard in Prime Minister's speech at the plenary session in BRICS today, to reform instead of discarding institutions. And in that sense, I think BRICS has become increasingly attractive to many more nations, also simply for the same reason that the institutions that dominate today, World Bank and IMF is invariably dominated by Europe, and World Bank has invariably the US citizen. Their voting weightage doesn't reflect the reality of the world today. So in that sense, BRICS has emerged as an attractive alternative for global South. Large number of countries are willing to join them, align with them. But I think India is trying to be a voice of sanity here, of not ensuring that it doesn't become kind of anti-West organization. As I said, some of the countries may have those impulses. We have Iran in it, we have China and Russia in it. And therefore, effort is that this stays as an important additional institution which can showcase alternative ways of financial governance and economic management. So focus on increasing use of local currencies is there, which sometimes is seen as de-dollarization, which is not how India looks at it in that sense, and more equitable and sort of more equal participation model being presented.
Lieutenant General Roy, I mean, considering what just now Dr. Professor Singh said, let me come to you and ask you a question. Now, it's very frustrating sometimes for India. This is very well known. May I have Lieutenant General Roy on the screen, please? Thank you very much. Yes, there he is. Good to see you, sir. Time and again we've seen China, rather Beijing, supporting Pakistan over India on regional issues, also supplying them with armaments. This has been a regular. And Russia is no better, sir. They are, two peas of the same pod, as it were. What does India do? I know that Prime Minister is meeting Xi Jinping after the Galwan thing, and also, this is an engagement at the LAC. But these two are major blocks or monolithic things which stare us in the face. How does we negotiate through that, sir?
You see, the basic issue is what Professor Singh has said, that India, as the largest democracy of the world, has its place. Nobody can ignore us. We have our very strong principles on which we have not compromised in the past ever. As regards the issues are concerned, whether it is Russia, China now, or previously it used to be the US, now also to great extent, many times it plays the Pakistan card. As far as I'm concerned, we got to be strong by ourselves without worrying about other nations, whatever they feel and say and do about us as far as the international relations are concerned. I'm not much of a student of international relations, but all I would like to say is that every nation works for its own interest and it does not worry about the interest of the other nations. Likewise, we have to worry about our interest and we are not worried about what China, whether it backs off Pakistan on certain issues or it doesn't back off Pakistan. So is the case with Russia, whether it supplies them arms ammunition, it doesn't supply them arms ammunition. As far as I'm concerned, we as a nation have to be strong enough to be by ourselves, going by our size of population, economy, geography, largest democracy of the world. Nobody can ignore us. That is a fact of life which everybody has to accept. Now, these various forums which are there, basically they start with economics and trade. So is the case with BRICS also. There were 5 members initially, then 6 more joined in, but Argentina is having, again, thoughts about it. So there are about 10 members as of now, which have expanded last year in 23, starting with the first meeting in 2009. So we can see that in last 16 years, these meetings are held every year. Last 16 years, we have already had the size of the BRICS got doubled. But the moot point here is that the member countries themselves need not be on a very different wickets if we really have to succeed through these groupings. And here I would like to say that right now the equation between India and China is not to the expected levels. I will not say it's worsening or I will not say it is very bad, but it is not up to the level that it should be, and that is the premise on which the present dispensation, that is the Modi government, started with in 2014. And we thought we'll build on those relationship till Galwan happened.
All right.
And whatever information are new that is coming out, that there is going to be some kind of a statement being issued that, disengagement or patrolling points being agreed and all that, I'm sorry, I'm not going to take anything without a pinch of salt.
All right.
Because China, let me tell you that whatever they have grabbed or whatever they have got for themselves, they have built up the kind of infrastructure that I have no hopes at all that they will go back on that. So whatever statements come out of it surely may not happen right now, but it can just act about a confidence building measure as far as the two leaders are concerned, and some kind of a more comfort zone coming for the future.
All right.
That's about all.
All right. Dr. Amalendu Mishra, let me ask you, and taking from what Lieutenant General Roy said, is that do you think BRIC member countries have been able to achieve what they set out to do? I'm not talking about great success and achievements, because a lot of this is also maybe unmeasurable and esoteric, for lack of any other word. You can't measure them like, like a sack of potatoes. But then they say that it's also because of major kind of dichotomies between countries, India and China, the border dispute, for instance. I mean, is it improving? Yes, but will it be better? I do not know. And because, all the members also, perhaps because it's expanded, but what that has also added is that all the members do not share Russia and China's antipathy towards the West. I mean, they have a different prism to look at the West. They have their own compulsions. So the BRICS doesn't seem to be moving with much swiftness, as it were, Dr. Mishra.
Well, I mean, although we can sort of talk about all the excitement surrounding BRICS, but if you look at it from a comparative perspective, comparative scale, you realize that it has achieved very little. In the first instance, you have already spelled it out. I mean, where is that synergy that unites them together? If you look at G7, they will say that we have democracy, we have developed economies, we have the same foreign policy. Whereas BRICS doesn't have that. You have got authoritarian governments such as China and Russia, to spell it out. And the economies are different as well. One is state control, and India, which has a liberal economy as well. So at a political level, they don't see eye to eye with each other, these partners. And economically, they're very different as well. And to make matters worse, they bring their own enmity. So when you talk about Iran being a part of BRICS, how is it going to sort of steer the narrative of BRICS so far as its position at the international levels is concerned, especially at a time when it is considered to be a kind of rabble-rouser in the Middle Eastern political process. So it is not a marriage made in heaven so far as BRICS is concerned. And that is the major stumbling block. Although we might have these regular summits, these photo opportunities, but it could achieve very little because there is no kind of a string that binds together, apart from the very fact that they don't belong to the developed North. They have a certain degree of sneaking antipathy. Sometimes it is very open, such as China and Russia. Perhaps in the
Professor Singh, let me come to you. We just heard what Dr. Mishra spoke about, open antipathy. And, Professor Singh, if I can have Professor Singh on the screen. Yes, thank you very much. Good to see you, Professor Singh. Iran's inclusion, of course, and how do you look at it? That's one thing that I want to ask you. And also, don't you think countries like Iran and, let's say, sorry, I beg your pardon, countries like us, like India and Brazil, they got to really tread very carefully because they cannot afford, and I'm using the word with careful consideration, Professor Singh, cannot afford to kind of create this anti-Western bloc. So first Iran's inclusion, and in the new kind of situation, the war in West Asia, and also this total antipathy of saying that this is who we are is something we cannot really afford. Would you agree?
Let me first deal with the dissensions and contestations within BRICS. There is absolutely no relationship that one can imagine which will not have certain element of conflict. Particularly among rapidly transforming countries, there is likelihood of historical and futuristic challenges which makes them sort of not at the same page very often. But that does not mean that BRICS has nothing in common, as Dr. Mishra just mentioned. The fundamental thing that brings them together is the fact that existing international institutions are not reflective of the reality, and all of them feel aggrieved of West dominating. Every time it is the US citizen who heads the World Bank, every time it is a European citizen who heads the IMF. What about other countries? I mean, there is a whole lot of other emerging economies, and they feel that they need to reform. If not reform is not possible, they create alternative platforms in that sense. And that is where I think India's policy is very interesting. India has moved away from non-alignment to what we call multi-alignment, building as much of strategic partnerships in as many sectors with as many countries as possible. So it's not just BRICS. Look at Middle East. India is very friendly with Saudi Arabia, but also UAE. India is very friendly with Iran, but also with Israel and Egypt. Countries that don't talk to each other, don't see eye to eye, see all India as their friend and partner. So in that sense, India is participating in BRICS nations as a voice of sanity, only country that has equally good relations with the United States and European nations, and also equally good relations with the President Putin. And I hope today's meeting with President Xi Jinping will make headlines tomorrow. Yes, India and China have difficulties, but they have been able to manage what is called simply now the final arrangements of grazing and patrolling in Damchok and Depsang, which was the last 2 points of friction after 2020. It doesn't mean that things are resolved. They will have to now work out on details of disengagement, then de-escalation, then going back to peace and tranquility, going back to February 2020. It's a complex relationship. But one is not expecting that everything is resolved tomorrow. But the fact that two leaders thought it good enough inflection point to begin to talk to each other, I think that is significant as to how countries in conflict manage their relationship. And BRICS is a platform, if that can help us manage our conflict relationship.
Yeah, absolutely.
Russia has helped China and India to work out their differences. And I'm hoping the meeting today will have headlines tomorrow of some kind of opening again and going back to informal summit meetings between President Xi and Prime Minister Modi. That will be historic in that sense.
Absolutely.
So yes, there are going to be challenges, but we'll have to work with those challenges.
As always, Lieutenant General Roy, I want to come to you and ask you that, sir, who would have thought, and optics is a very, very large measure of this, of any summit of this kind, and who would have thought, 2.5 years after the Russia-Ukraine war, Putin would be holding this and, successfully so far having held this. Do you think it's a kind of a win? Or do you see this as an achievement, or do you see this as shifting ground, or do you see this just as compulsion?
In a way, I would put it in the category of compulsion.
Okay.
See, the way Russia-Ukraine war has gone on, the way the Israel and Iran conflict is developing, some such activity was required by any of these countries. Could it be Russia? Could it be China, or could it be India as well? Because we are not in the line of these hosting nations, so we are not doing it. But by doing this, I think Putin is trying to get some kind of a good feel factor for himself and some sort of a legitimacy to whatever is going on between Russia and Ukraine for nearly 2 years now. That is the way I look at it, because see, I'm a soldier. I am not into too much of diplomacy. I'm not into the kind of optics. I'm not into the diplomatic language which goes on describing a language which, when you try to translate it into action on the ground, it involves nothing. As far as I'm concerned, I'm not expecting any big thing to come out of the bilateral meeting of Indian Prime Minister as well as China's Xi Jinping. All that may happen is that this may, to some extent, give an opening. A small window can be opened for further dialogue, for further negotiations, for further understandings on how the future would shape as far as the de-escalation between India and China is concerned. But more important is that in that de-escalation, whatever are the areas up to which China has already come and they have already gotten their hold, there are reports varying anything from 1,000 square kilometers to 2,000 square kilometers. What would happen to that area? If you ask me as a soldier, I know for sure that on the ground, China is not going to shift its stance from wherever it has come. It is never going to go back substantially. It has already got the infrastructure made. It has already got a bridge over Pengongsu Lake. And then as regards what Professor Swaran Singh was saying, that Depsong and Demchok area, those are the new flashpoints and much details of those areas are not available. As far as we are concerned, it's a Galwan Valley, patrolling point 14-15. It is the finger area, finger 2 to 8. Those are the areas. How would that actually be translated on the ground? And what are the understandings? I do not expect that to come out right now as part of this meeting. Only thing that will happen, if at all that happens, is that this meeting between the two big leaders of the two warring nations, or these two nations which do not have the best of the relationships, if it takes us forward through a window which has got the political sanction at the highest level to improve that on the ground in a manner that the chance of any kind of a, I would say, conflict between these two nations are reduced largely, because when the troops are in front of each other, although the demilitarized zone has been described, but there again, there are a lot of question marks on the ground on those issues as well. So as far as those kind of flashes do not occur, I would be happy about it. If that window is open, I do not expect anything more than that to come out of the bilateral meeting. You see, even the trade balance, if you saw the figures, whatever figures are being projected, I do not know how good or bad those figures could be. But there's a huge trade imbalance between the two countries as well, if we talk of economics and the trade between the two countries itself. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you know, Dr. Misra, now Modi is meeting Putin again, you know, after July. Now, the thing is that, you know, this kind of, and also Putin is hosting it, does it show the kind of importance that we as a nation and Prime Minister Modi, you know, gives to India-Russia relationship and also their ties, and gives it a lot of credence, as it were, and even as the entire West is trying to isolate Moscow after the Ukraine war. So this is a very, very strong message going out. Would you agree, Dr. Misra?
Yes, indeed. I mean, there are two messages that are being relayed so far as the optics are concerned. First of all, India makes it very clear that it is going to stand by its friend no matter what. And it has been made very plentifully clear by the foreign minister time and time again that former Soviet Union, now Russia, the successor state, is always going to be in the good books of New Delhi, because they have stood by India when the liberal, so-called quote-unquote liberal democracies were against India and were propping up a dictatorial regime in Pakistan to undermine India's sovereignty. So there are no ifs and buts so far as India's intentions towards Russia is concerned. And the second one, Modi has dabbled with the prospect of developing bridges with the West, strong bonds. And we have seen that with India's relationship with the United States, with the European Union and other democracies. And we have seen some success on that front so far as Quad is concerned. But these have only remained kind of photo opportunities. They haven't necessarily produced the concrete outcomes that India would have liked to see. So its relationship with the United States hasn't gone from lips and bounds, so to speak. So that is the reason why New Delhi doesn't want to abandon Russia, which has been a kind of all-weather friend, quote unquote, once again. So, and India is making it very clear that it is a continuation of its policies of non-alignment in a different way, that it wants to remain friends with everyone, but enemies with none. So this multilateralism that India is developing is a message that if you think that our interest and your interest are together, if we can do the tango, then we'll do it, no matter what your politics is, no matter what your domestic scenario is, but we are prepared to go that extra mile.
Right.
And when India is talking about energy security, that it makes it very clear.
Professor Singh, you know, I get a feeling that all the gentlemen who've spoken before you, they're taking it with, you know, handfuls of salt and said, listen, do not rush about, because China, like Lieutenant General Roy said, that, you know, I'm very sure the way they've been building and the way they have been, do not expect anything. And also we heard what Dr. Mishra said, that it could all be a photo opportunity if it takes two to tango. Very good, we will see all of them tango. But as of now, is there a scare, Professor Singh? You know, we're talking about an expanded BRICS. We're talking about something which is historical, which is about to take place, and that is the meeting between Xi Jinping and our Prime Minister. Also, Putin on the screen right now hosting this. But do you think at the end of the day, it's not like, you know, making a child smile because you've cracked a joke in front of it?
Let me begin by saying that I fully agree that salt, taking things with salt, is a very significant ingredient of any delicious diet. So, of course, salt, taking things with salt is important. But let me say that I'm not saying that something historic is going to happen between Prime Minister Modi and President Xi Jinping's meeting. I only believe that this can create, and it looks like already, an inflection point for future things to happen incrementally over years or decades. But difficult bend, I think we have kind of crossed now at this stage. That is the kind of indication. I read both Chinese and Indian media. Both are recognizing that this agreement happened on Monday, is a significant agreement, and it is making it possible for two leaders to meet. President Putin, it's a great opportunity for him. He was isolated for a long period of time. Now they are saying that for Russia, this is the largest ever multilateral summit hosted or meeting hosted by Russia so far. So they think it is a success for them. India is looking for itself all kinds of things that are possibly good for us. India is attending BRICS, becoming an important player in BRICS nations, fastest growing economy among BRICS. India is there to also push forward its effort to bring peace between Russia and Ukraine. India is there to also engage China in that sense. So multiple countries are there with multiple motives. And incrementally, each one is looking at BRICS as a grouping which is becoming extremely exciting, and therefore large number of countries want to join it, and that is why partly Western nations are so paranoid with what is happening in BRICS.
All right, and on that note, let me now thank all of you, Ambassador Dayal, who joined us on this broadcast, Lieutenant General Roy, thank you very much for joining us, Dr. Amalendu Mishra, it was such a pleasure, sir, and of course also Professor Singh, thank you for joining us in this broadcast. And a little while from now, Xi Jinping will be meeting with Narendra Modi. As far as now this bulletin is concerned, it's a wrap. Thank you so much for watching.
In the heart of New York, an Indian spectacle unfolds. Step into the world of the elite saga, featuring influential Indians who've rocked the globe. From culinary geniuses,
this has been nothing less than a dream,
to the wisdom of sages.
And which is why success can never be spelt without you.
Discover the stories behind the stars. Experience the magic behind the scenes. At the first Indian event at the Statue of Liberty. Watch the Elite Saga streaming only on News 9 Plus. Download now.
Motherwell Frankfurt travelled to the champions with an outside chance of ending the weekend in first place. But a sloppy start saw Leverkusen awarded an early penalty. Though Victor Boniface's weak effort was never going to trouble Kevin Trapp on his return from injury. In the opposite box, Robert Andrich brought down Omar Marmoush, and Frankfurt's number 7 was far more effective from the spot. The Bundesliga's top goalscorer hammering in his 9th of the season, merciless from Marmoush. Leverkusen's equaliser was the culmination of a fine footballing move. Andrich supplying the finish to atone for his cost.